Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Doors of the Universe podcast. The podcast where we dive deep into the most mysterious creatures and stories from around the world and open all the doors of the mysteries of our known universe. I'm your host, Aaron, and today we're going to explore one of the lesser known but absolutely fascinating creatures in cryptozoology. It's a beast that's been lurking in the shadows of folklore. The Euroa Beast. As per usual, in my going about and finding topics for this podcast, I do not remember where I came across this cryptid, but it made its way onto the Wheel of Destiny and was the topic choice for this episode, which I'm very glad I did because this particular cryptid does not have a lot of exposure. Its time of being seen was only a short 4-year period in the late 1800s, started in 1880, and last being seen in 1884. A little bit about the sighting, or at least the location of the sighting. Euroa is a town in the Shire of Strathbogie. Now let me start off by saying I am not a native Australian. And I do not claim. I want to apologize in advance for any of the words that I mess up here, which should be too many. But there are some city names and some other Australian-based things that I might mess up the pronunciation of, and I apologize. But Euroa is a town in the Shire of Strathbogie in northeast of Victoria, Australia. At the 2021 census, Euroa's population was 3,116. The name Euroa comes from an Aboriginal word in the old local dialect meaning joyful. That's nice. That's pleasant. Euroa's claim to fame is that the National Bank was robbed by Ned Kelly in 1878. Something. I mean, that's more than some cities have. Much of the region's wealth once came from sheep, but now it comes from horse studs. The temperature in Euroa possesses a humid subtropical climate bordering on an oceanic climate, with very warm, relatively dry summers and cool, wetter winters, which would make for a perfect location for the Euroa Beast. Before we go any further, I will say this may be a short episode. It hasn't got a lot of exposure, but it also just doesn't have a lot on the internet about it. I came across one podcast episode on Spotify about it. Normally, I find at least 2 or 3, at minimum, episodes regarding the things I'm talking about on here. So it's exciting to be able to bring out a cryptid that's not as well known and part of Australia's history. Especially this could be, they said that the claim to fame for this town is Ned Kelly robbing the bank. No, it's the Euroa Beast is what is going to be its claim to fame moving forward, along with Ned Kelly robbing the bank in whatever year that was, 1878. But yeah, no, it's exciting to bring out something that isn't talked about a lot, isn't there's a lot of information out there. And as always, I will share all the references to all the sites that I did use. There were not much, but there was information. There wasn't, let's put it this way, this creature is so unwell known that there wasn't even a Wikipedia page for it. That's saying something, right? But either way, let's talk about the first sighting. The first accounts of this bizarre event were published in the Brisbane Courier, then in the Melbourne Argus on February 28th, and again on March 1st, 1890. The story begins in an area known as, again, this is me going back to me not being Australian native, Wylonemby, Wylonemby, located near the township of Euroa, Australia, where a cadre of credible witnesses testified the swamp had been infested by an unidentified 30-foot-long monstrosity since 1884. The Brisbane Courier published this article, which they claimed was written by the Euroa correspondent of the Melbourne Argus on February 25, 1890. Considerable excitement has been caused in Euroa by reports as to an extraordinary animal having been seen in a swamp at Wailanimbi, about 14 miles distant. The swamp is about 150 yards across, and a creek flows through it. For 6 years or more, the swamp is reputed to have been the haunt of something abnormal. Tales being told of dogs flying out of the place and never being induced to enter. Last week, a couple of young men went into the swamp for the purpose of cutting reeds, which are 6 feet high and very thick, when they were alarmed by a sudden splashing and snorting near at hand, and the rushes waved as if allowing passage to some large animal. They quickly retired, but next day one ventured back to carry out the reeds he had cut. When he was once again alarmed by strange sounds, he leaped up on a log, and at some 30 paces away saw a large head upreared, which he likens to that of a bulldog. It kept this position for about 10 minutes. When it disappeared, the motion of the rushes giving the idea of an animal some 30 feet long. The young man was greatly scared. Rightly so. On a report of the occurrence appearing in the local journal, a party of Euroa sportsmen went out to the swamp, where they were joined by local residents on horseback. After beating about for more than an hour, they were about to give up the quest when a sudden rustling was heard, and two of the party saw an enormous tail as thick as a man's thigh disappearing into the large trunk of its fallen tree. A shot was fired at the animal, but its effect is a matter of conjecture. Attempts were made to dislodge the bunyip, but without avail, the only result being a small black snake, which was quickly dispatched. Night coming on, the party retired, but will again visit the scene on Saturday. Those who saw the animal described it as being of a yellow color underneath and a dark brown above, as thick as Mr. Barr's bell topper. It is supposed to be an immense serpent, such as is found in Queensland. Assuming the bell topper in question is referring to a top hat, and taking into consideration the fact that this creature was apparently able to scamper inside the trunk of a fallen tree, it must be assumed that this is a relatively narrow beast, perhaps not unlike an otter. Of course, this theory is hinged on the speculation that this hunting party actually saw the same 30-foot, canine-like creature that the young reed cutters claimed to have encountered just days before. While it is tempting to lump these reports in with accounts of Australia's notorious creature, the bunyip, some investigators have speculated that this pug-faced beast may actually be an ancestral amphibian known as Paderpes feniae. These short, squat, presumed extinct crocodile-like tetrapods hailed from the early Carboniferous and represent what many scientists believe to be the missing link between fish and land animals. Whatever this creature was or was not, it sent waves of panic rippling through the small community of Euroa and the surrounding regions, forcing the townspeople to solicit the help of the executives at the Melbourne Zoological Gardens. The garden officials, who were understandably skeptical about the whole ordeal, felt the accounts deserved further scrutiny and swiftly dispatched an emissary to Euroa. Armed only with what the articles referred to as a big net, this intrepid and apparently anonymous, scientifically sanctioned dragon slayer entered into the midst of this terror-stricken town. So taking a quick break from the text here, I want us to focus on the fact that the choice that the Melbourne Zoological Gardens decided was best fit for this creature that they'd found was a scientifically sanctioned dragon slayer. First of all, how do you become scientifically sanctioned as a dragon slayer? Second of all, where do I sign up? Because, I mean, the fact that this is the person they're sitting in means this person is getting paid to go in places as a scientifically sanctioned dragon slayer and capture rare beast. But also it makes me think, since they were only armed with a big net, is all it lists, is all they brought with them to catch the thing. That they're not expecting to catch anything. So this is somebody that goes in when there's reports, but the Zoological Society knows that this report's probably bogus, and this is the person that gets sent in. I am, as many of you know, I'm currently on a job hunt, and I am, let me know where to sign up to become a scientifically sanctioned dragon slayer. I'm sure maybe the title's changed at this point. It's been a couple 100 years, whatever. But I'm all for, I'm actively seeking to become a scientifically sanctioned dragon slayer. Back to the article. The scientifically sanctioned dragon slayer entered into the midst of the terror-stricken town and wasted no time in organizing a party of 40 men, all of whom were no doubt hell-bent on pursuing and capturing this beast. The posse hunted throughout the day and into the night, but the only thing they had to show for their efforts was the discovery of a set of gigantic tracks, which sadly terminated before the monster could be found. One can only assume that either casts were not made of these prints or that they have been lost to the ravages of time. Sadly, this is the last known account of this mysterious monster, but this case has often been mentioned in company with the equally inexplicable creature known as the Masterton Monster of New Zealand. Sounds like we're going to need to do an episode on that, you know what I'm saying? That's going on the list. Quick recap of the physical features. Euroa Beast is a 30-foot long, bulldog-faced amphibious beast. Lizard-like in nature. Witnesses claimed its tail was as thick as a man's thigh. I mean, thighs vary in size, but either way, I mean, that's a relatively thick snake. Of course, this brings me back to the episode of the 30-foot Congo snake, the giant snake of Congo episode I did, which sounds like it could be pretty. I mean, I think that one was actually a lot bigger, though, like bigger than a man's thigh. Probably about the size of a man. Roundness. Again, people vary in size, but I'm thinking the Congo snake was actually bigger. This one seems like it was a little bit thinner, maybe a baby version of the Congo snake. But because it is 30 feet long, but it could also fit in the side a hollowed out tree. Again, don't know how thick the tree was either, but either way, we got a 30-foot long amphibious beast. And we think about Titanoboa. I love bringing up Titanoboa. Titanoboa is one of my favorite things to bring up. We know I love bringing up Titanoboa. If you've listened to this podcast any amount, you'll hear Titanoboa brought up more than once. Why do I love Titanoboa so much? I love Titanoboa because it is this 50-foot long snake creature that we didn't find fossils of until the 2000s, early 2000s. And that just gives me so much hope that there are these things out there that it doesn't give me hope. It gives me hard-based proof that there are these things that we have yet to discover yet. There was just another dinosaur discovered in 2024, Lokiceratops rangiformis. It was in Montana. This is a dinosaur that until last year we had no idea existed. This couple weeks ago, there was a National Geographic video I saw of Chadi Titan Calvoy, or Titan of the Salt. It was discovered, it's another titanosaur, one of the, similar to the brontosaurus. It was tall, but very large dinosaur with small teeth. These things pop up and I get excited, I get happy, because it's things they're out there. There's things we'll keep discovering things. That's just the facts. As long as people keep looking, we'll keep discovering. So yeah, that excites me. It gets me invigorated. It gets me, what are we going to find in the next 100 years, But either way, I think that's where a lot of my belief in things that maybe not yet discovered, that cryptozoology, things that people have claimed to see, but we don't have physical proof of. Give it another 50, 100 years. I'm sure we'll come up with some things that people have said weren't existing. Unidentified flying objects, 2019, when all the UFO files were declassified. The fact that we know that there are UFOs out there, and they are not of human origin. I don't know. That's where I'm at. I'm excited. There's a lot of negative going on in the world, and I just need to make sure I am still focusing on all the positive and all the possibilities of the future, because that's what I look forward to. That's what gets me up in the morning. I think that was a question on something I answered. What gets you up in the morning? I think that was one of the job applications. But either way, yeah, the hunt for knowledge of things we don't know about yet. The more we know, the more we learn, the better off we are, I think. But yeah, enough ranting about that. What are Titanoboa? What are some of the theories or speculations? This is from a Reddit post which had one response when the original poster was asking what everyone thought Euroa Beast was. This comment said, based on the latter reports, Malcolm Smith, who I had to look up, is a zoologist, suggested it was likely a large python. Personally, I think the original reports sound like the usual vagrant sea lion or seal sort of bunyip, but I don't know whether the swamp had a close connection to the sea. And for the uninformed, like I was myself before doing this episode, I'd look up what the bunyip is, because it gets mentioned earlier in the earlier article, and just right there. The bunyip is a mythical monster which the Aborigines believed frequents the inland waterways of Southeast Australia. The name by which it went varied greatly between tribes, its description was generally vague, and its habits reputably dangerous. What is not often known is that it was reported not only by Aborigines, but by white settlers every 20 or 30 years during the 19th century. Some people have brought up the possibility of the thylacine connection. The theory that the Euroa Beast might be a surviving thylacine, Tasmanian tiger, or a relative, tying it into the mystery of extinct or thought to be extinct animals in Australia. The last thing was they explored the possibility that indigenous stories about spirit creatures in the Australian outback could be linked to the Euroa Beast, delving into folklore, which go more into folklore and traditional beliefs. So like most of the pictures I see, it looks like a lizard with a bulldog head. There's a specific image that comes up when you search for what the Euroa Beast looks like, and a lot of them have more of a lizard with legs look. To me, I lean more towards the large python with a unique head. If it's that big, then I think the size of the head could look similar to that of a dog more than of a snake, or maybe it is a spirit creature. I'm all for that too. Let's just go with it. Let's party. But yeah, my thought would lean towards more of the python belief. Certain type of python or large snake that was just not known to exist then. That is all I have on the Euroa Beast. What do you think? What do you think this creature is? You've heard everything I had to offer on the Euroa Beast. Now it's time for you to form some thoughts of your own on what you think it might be. Is it a surviving Tasmanian tiger? Was it a snake with it had a bulldog face on it? Which that would be. Snakes are bad enough, but bulldogs are cute. I like bulldogs. English and American, both fine specimens. No, both good boys that deserve love. Yeah, what do you think? You've heard everything I have on it. It's time for you to decide what you think. And as like I said, I'll include the links that I use for all the minimal amount of research I could do on this creature. But hopefully you can, hopefully this is something new. You learned something new today, something you hadn't heard before. I know I hadn't until researching it. But yeah, look into it more if you want to, or just enjoy this episode and let your mind be creative. I think that's something we let go of too often, is just enjoying the ability to be a little creative with our minds and being able to just have fun with what could be, which is why I and some friends are starting a new D&D campaign, which I am very excited about. I haven't done D&D in a couple of years, and I am excited to let that creative outlet come in, taking on the role of Thrax, the dragon-born wizard. Let me know what you think. You can always comment on any of the podcast social media, which you can find at Linktree, linktr.ee/DOTU podcast. I have linked all the socials. It also has a link to the new Etsy shop. Yes, you heard correctly. There is an Etsy shop that is now up and running. I've only got the Doors of the Universe beard oil on there currently, which is all handmade by myself with the finest of products. It is the beard oil I use myself, and since I have some downtime, I thought, why not try and get a little creative, and made the label myself, made the package, shipping, everything. It's going to be done by me. I'm a one-man shop here. But yeah, we'll have that. I'm going to throw some stickers up on there. But yeah, that'll be if you want to buy something DOTU podcast, Doors of the Universe podcast related. You can find it there, and the link to that Etsy shop is on there, which is the name of the shop is Doors of the Universe. But yeah, let me know what you think. Go ahead and leave a comment on any of the socials, YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, no longer on Twitter, X. But yeah, there's a link to all the socials on there. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast and would like to support it financially, you can do so through Patreon, which I think they recently switched something on there. I don't know if you can still do the monthly donation or how that's working now. I have to look a little bit more into it, but I do remember seeing something about them switching how they're doing donation. But yeah, it's all on there. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed this, tell a friend, share the social media post on whatever social media you're following on. Love growing a community. Love growing a group of people that like to have fun talking about things like cryptids, which I love it. I love it so much. Thank you for listening, and keep an eye to the sky. If you happen to find yourself in Australia near a swamp and you see something as thick as a man's thigh crawling into a hollowed out log, try and snap a picture. Yeah, we don't have any good pictures recently of it. And I would love to see what the Euroa Beast actually looks like. I'll see y'all next time.